NRL round 22 then. We'll get straight into the first game, Thursday's game. Cowboys 12, Roosters 82.
You're some tipster, Dan. You're some tipster.
I knew you'd bring this up. Thank you for that.
You're worse than Kyler Moore on the back.
Yeah, well, we're both cut from the same cloth. What can I say? I'll go straight into it. Teddy got the first try. The halves were dialed in. Sam Walker was outstanding. Obviously got a hat-trick. They scored 8 tries in the first half, and it was 48-6 at half-time, and they had a try disallowed as well. It could have been over 50. How can you break this game down? No one expected an absolute annihilation.
Nobody expects 80. The Cowboys are on the back of a shorter turnaround. Roosters longer to recover and recuperate. Roosters are in great form. I put game over, halftime, 48-6 games over.
Yeah.
And then I think I put another comment on my social media, my ex account, and I put, if you're a Roosters, you just open a checkbook, you rip a page out, and you put it underneath Sam Walker's nose while he sat at the table, and you ask him to fill it in for the next 5 years, and that will be his salary.
Yeah.
He's commanding now, isn't he? He was arguably going to be the State of Origin player of the series until New South Wales win. 20-0 in the first game. I think he's commanding the game until the send off of Ponga. He's now Tom Dearden must be gutted with regards to what Sam Walker did at Origin level and the way he's playing, because Tom was a shoo-in before his injury, and then Sam Walker's taken over. Teddy, phenomenal. Taken off with an injury, but I'm sure he'll be fine. They just look like a team that are ready to win and ready to play. And from all the noise at the beginning of the year, when can Daly Cherry Evans and Sam Walker work, and can Teddy fit into this, and can they get the combinations together and right? No panic there from Trent Robinson, and right now it's sat second in the competition, and they're probably the form team of it.
Yeah, and it's kind of like Cooper Cronk 2.0, because they did exactly the same thing. Cooper Cronk came in, struggled. Who was his house partner at the time? He's completely flipped out my head. He struggled to have the combination going at the start of the season. Then it flourished. The partnership flourished, and they went on to win it.
Luke Keary.
Yeah, it was Luke Keary. Sorry, my mistake. So Keary and Cronk, they struggled at the start of the season, and it started to flourish. Then they just caught fire at the same time as the Roosters are catching fire now. It's kind of like history repeats itself, and that year they went on to win it. So you could be bang on the money with tipping them. Yeah. But to close out on that game, Sam Walker and Teddy were my picks of the players for man of the match, and it was just an utter domination. Cowboys, it's one of them. You've just got to reset now. Wipe it completely out your mind.
I think they're the type of games, Dan, as a coach, where you can just say, draw a line under it. You are not going to meet a team that are as good as that any other week in the competition. Even if they meet the Roosters in playoffs or in later on in the season, if they play the Roosters again, the scoreline will never be like that. I think it's been such a long time in the NRL since the team scored 80. I think since 1935, I read. Something like that. So for a team to score 82 points in a game is no mean feat for the Roosters. But for the Cowboys, you just draw a line under it. They haven't become a poor team over the last week. They go from beating the Broncos to losing by that scoreline. That's not going to happen again.
No, it's not. We'll move quickly on to our next game then, Friday's game. Dragons 22, Dolphins 28. Selwyn Cobbo, Herbie Farnworth and Max Plath standouts for me. And also Kurt Donahue. I've never seen someone tackle and hit people as hard as he does. Kurt Donahue has been revelation this season since he's been playing. But the Dolphins, another win for them, obviously cements the place at the moment in the top 8. I think they're sitting 5th on 30 points. But I generally think this is the season, playoffs. I do think that they do get in there. I think Christian Wolf's done an exceptional job. Dragons, it's another one of them, isn't it? It's a valiant performance, but it's just a bit more of the same. Another loss. I think they're like you mentioned last week. I think they're looking at next year. How did you see this game, and what do you think of the Dolphins at the moment?
Yeah, I thought St George were good as well. It's really difficult for the Dragons because the season is done. It's over.
Yeah.
You know, and as valiant as they try and as gallant as they are, you don't get 2 competition points for losing games. It's as
No.
simple as that.
No.
So, you know, you feel for them. There's some turnaround of player that is going to leave the club and be brought in terms of recruitment. You know, a few of them are coming over to the Super League and Cast for a start, and
Yeah.
so yeah, there's gonna be some big changes again at the Dragons. So yeah, but when you look at the Dolphins, I think Christian Wolf books the trend of following in the footsteps of Wayne Bennett as the only coach who remains in job.
Yeah, he does.
So you know, they've done phenomenally well. Morgan Knowles playing really well in there.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, for the Dolphins, and as you said, the players that you mentioned are phenomenal for them. You know, winning games. You know, sat inside the playoffs, look like they're going to make the maiden playoff performances at the end of the season, and long may it continue for the Dolphins. It's been a wonderful journey for them, hasn't it? From when they
Yeah.
began and Wayne Bennett started the recruitment of them a few years ago. So, you know, I look forward to seeing them, and Christian Wolf's done a magnificent job.
Well, the Dolphins this week, they're at home to the Brisbane Broncos, so that should be a fiery encounter. Looking forward to that. But the Dragons, they're at home to the Cronulla Sharks, and we know how well they're going. Next game was Melbourne Storm 22, Canterbury Bulldogs 36. This win has now put them back into the top 8, and I'll put my hand up. I wrote the Dogs off. I didn't think they had it in them to go back, but they are clicking at the moment, and the return of Viliami Kikau, he's just been unbelievable.
He's the man. I tell you, he's the man
is.
because nobody gets to his outside shoulders.
No.
You know, he's phenomenal at protecting his outside halfback. You know, the try the week before where he steps off his left foot is you know, it's just rugby league, you know, poetry in motion, and you know the one-handed offload over the top, the basketball pass to Crichton. They look really dangerous. Crichton looks settled in the halves. Galvin looks better because of it.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I didn't see them making the 8 off the back of the performances, but the return of Kikau has been unbelievable. Thompson in the middle is playing really well now.
Yeah, he is. And
because you've got some big players playing.
He had a slow start, didn't he? Because they brought him in from the Newcastle Knights, and it looked as though he just was not getting to grips with it. But Leo Thompson, a massive guy. Like their pack is monstrous. Salmon scored 2 tries as well. I think he started at lock forward in this one, and he played really well. But there was two instances, going back to Viliami Kikau's, 2 instances where he had 3 or 4 defenders around him, on him, and he just finds a way to just pop it underneath over the top, and he just must be a nightmare to defend against.
He's so big as well.
Yeah,
I tell you a funny story, Dan. Me and my partner was in Hull when the World Cup was on, and they was based in Hull. And we walked into Nando's, and my partner said to me, "What's wrong with you?" And she said, "What's the matter? You look like you look like you're like you've had a stroke." And stood there was Kikau and Api Coruscant, and I'm a huge fan of Viliami Kikau, and for you know one of the very few people that I was starstruck over. My missus said, "Paul, you look an idiot. Can you sit down and eat your food, please?" So it was surreal to see him up close. He's huge.
Yeah,
he's a huge man. His back's huge.
Yeah.
You know, it must be a right edge halfback's nightmare the night before you're playing against him.
Yeah, he must be. So yeah, another win in the bag for the Bulldogs. The Storm. I don't like putting lines through teams at the moment because I keep getting things wrong. But
no, I think you're probably right too.
Yeah, Melbourne.
I think they're going to miss too many big players for too long before they run into playoffs.
Well, barring Suafa-Longo, who I have to give him a mention because he's unplayable at sometimes. He's so elusive. Apart from him, the whole spine's gone. Even before kickoff, Jerome Hughes was named to play at 7, and he dropped out with an injury. Obviously, they were already missing Cam Munster, missing Harry Grant. Xavier Coates has not played all season. There's just too many Origin international players.
Will Warbrick's
gone as well. Yeah. Yeah, you fear for them, but they have brought in Bronson Cherry, they brought in Jermaine Asako from the Dolphins, so they are trying to address the issues. So they'll be hoping for a better year next year. Moving on to the game that followed, that was the Gold Coast Titans 6, New Zealand Warriors 42. New Zealand, obviously, the Warriors back to winning ways. The Titans, it's a strange one because the Titans over the past few weeks, I thought they've played well. And in this one, I feel like it was kind of an inferior complex. They didn't really start with the belief that they could get a result. It was kind of, for me, when I was watching it, it looked like they were already beaten before they started. And then obviously they had the bad news of the young halfback who's been playing very well. Zane Harrison went down with a hamstring injury, so they had to do a bit of reshuffling, which is never ideal. But what do you think to the Warriors? Do you think that they could break back into that top two, or are you saying they're going to finish outside of that now?
I think they finished there. I don't think anybody catches Roosters and Penrith, but they
No.
could. It could change. Never say never. I think that the Titans run into a team at the very much the wrong time after a defeat the week before, which was a poor one. I know a
Yeah.
narrow one, but a poor one and an unexpected one. So
Yeah.
when you consider can you imagine what was said in the four walls last week at the WAS headquarters during reviews and pointing
Yeah.
of fingers, and I said it last week. I think it might be the kick up the backside that they need.
Yeah.
That they can't go into games complacent, and I don't think they did in this one. I thought from minute one they were physically dominant.
There was, yeah.
They always looked like they were going to win, and I also agree with you that the pulling out of the half of the Titans and the rejig. It's a
Yeah.
recipe for disaster for a team when they're coming up against the Warriors off the back of a loss.
Yeah, it is. And I thought as well, he's so underrated, Dylan Egan at 9.
Yeah.
He was touted that he may get in to the Blues squad for State of Origin, didn't come off. I think he reminds me when I mentioned last week about Danny Walker for Warrington Woolswood, that it's that ideal 9 who they see things ultra quick and they've got pace with it. It just kills you as a defense, and he's the art of it in the NRL, Dylan Egan.
Yeah.
Leka Halasima in the centres. He's normally a back row. I thought he played very well out at the centres. And Aaron Clark, he was once a Titan. He was playing loose forward for the Warriors. And you don't see many loose forwards lock forwards kicking anymore, but he put this wonderful kick over to the far corner that was knocked down, and ultimately the Warriors scored a try off it. The Warriors, however, though, they do go up against the Penrith Panthers this week.
Yeah. Be a
It
big
is all,
game, that one, and a psychological advantage to somebody, Dan.
yeah, it
Because
is.
if Warriors get one over on them, it just fires
Yeah,
a shot, doesn't it, to the Penrith
yeah,
Panthers
it
and
does.
says, if we meet you in the playoffs, just be
Yeah,
wary, we can get you.
yeah.
And the Panthers can obviously they can open up much more of a gap between them and third spot with a
Yeah,
victory this week. So it's a big game. It's a huge game. Probably the game of the weekend this weekend.
yeah. I'd agree with that. Speaking of the Panthers, they were up next. They went against the Raiders. Panthers 42, Raiders 18. In the first 25 minutes, the Panthers had 80% possession, which is
Yeah.
unheard of in a rugby league game. They were just so dominant. They were smothering the Raiders. Liam Martin got 2 tries, although his second one was a bit contentious. And obviously, we have to speak about him because he's so underrated. He's one of the most underrated players of history. Is Tom Jenkins on the wing. He's now got there's a stat where he's got more doubles in games than singles tries. He's obviously on course to break all sorts of records. He keeps breaking them. He got another 2 tries on this weekend. Yeah, where do you think? Do you think the Panthers are back at 100% now? Do you think that they're going to go on and win it, or do you think that other teams could potentially pick them?
I think that it was a big week for the Panthers from the previous loss.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, the wrong time to meet the Panthers, isn't it?
Yeah.
For the Raiders, who were on a decent run themselves. Who was on a
Yeah, they
decent
was.
run, playing some decent stuff, but Penrith just click. I think the combination between Cleary and Martin's getting there again. As you said, Jenkins on the wing is scoring doubles for fun. He's certainly going to
Yeah.
get one or more in a game. So yeah, they're just they're travelling along really nicely without playing the best football, and I think there's still more gears in them. So
Yeah.
it's probably exciting for the Panthers fans that they're still winning games and winning them handsomely, but I still think there's more in them. For the Raiders, yeah, disappointing season. The biggest fall from minor premiers to not going to make the 8. So yeah, it's been a disappointment for them.
It doesn't get any easier for them. On Sunday, they take on the Newcastle Knights, who are scrapping for wins themselves to stay in the top 8. So it's going to be a tough one. It is down at GIO Stadium for the Raiders, but it's going to be a tough game for them. We'll move on to the Newcastle Knights. They ran out 30 points to 6 winners over the Brisbane Broncos. Newcastle Knights back to winning ways. I think it was the last 2 games that they've lost. I thought Kalen Ponga was sensational again. His return from injury, missing last week. Dom Young, the Englishman on the wing, he was fantastic. He got a try out wide. And also there was a bit of biff as well. There was three sin binnings in the first half. Reece Walsh getting a good grab of a handful of hair of Dom Young's. It was all handbag stuff, really. But Newcastle Knights, they ran away with it in the end, 30 points to 6. Where do you see the Knights' chances?
You know, when you look at performances over the weekend, I know the Roosters was brilliant, but arguably the performance of the weekend comes from Newcastle.
Yeah.
You know, such a dominant performance off last year's champions against last year's champions. Ponga back in the team certainly fills everybody else with confidence. I think it's a special player that when he plays, he drags an extra 5, 6, maybe 10% out of everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think that's the confidence he gives everybody around them at Newcastle. As you said, Dom Young was good. They've been a revelation for me in 2026. The Knights, and Justin Albrook's done a wonderful job.
Yeah, he has. But yeah, the Knights march on, another win for them, and that cements them into the top 8. I think the 6 at the moment. They have dropped out the top 4, but I still think that they make the playoffs. Moving on to the second to last game, Cronulla Sharks 32, South Sydney Rabbitohs 16. We'll mention it again, 32 consecutive conversion kicks for Nico Hines. He's 3 away from equaling the record. NRL, that is, anyway. I think the record's 35, as we mentioned last week for El Masri. The Sharks, again, though, so fluent. They look like the one team that's outside of that 3 or 4 team kind of, you know, where you've got the Roosters, Panthers, and potentially Warriors. I would say they're probably the next best in line with Trindle and Nico in the halves, and obviously
Kennedy's impressive.
Yeah.
Kennedy's a good player, mate.
Yeah,
a very good player, really underrated. Because everybody speaks about Walsh and Ponga and Tedesco, and Will Kennedy's just outside of them. But what a job he's doing by getting on the end of things. His energy, his aerobic capacity to get around the field and be in position. I think he's a very underrated fullback.
I was going to say that the strange one with Will is the last 3 contracts he's had have all been 1-year deals with the Sharks. It's like they've never really. They must have thought
they're waiting for somebody better.
And he's like you say, he's a phenomenal fullback. He's very safe. He's very good in attack and defense. And it's just always been a strange one for me, where they just keep dangling that carrot and will keep you along. And I just think sometimes a bit disrespectful as well.
Hines and Trindle in the halves are just pulling strings.
Yeah, they are.
The shape and structure of the team's good. You know what they're going to do, but trying to defend it's really difficult. So I think they're going really well, the Sharks, and they would be an outside bet. I know they struggled at playoff time. And that's their Achilles heel a little bit. People keep saying, you know, can they do it in playoffs and get over the line in big games in playoffs? And I think they're an outside bet to get it done this year.
Yeah, I know. I agree with that. We'll see how the Sharks finish the season off, because we know, obviously, we've mentioned before, that they tend to get to the first or second week of finals and completely capitulate. So hopefully they can take that step, the next step, and replicate what happened in 2016. But we wait and see. Which brings us nicely into the final game, which I have no idea how to explain this one. If anyone watched this one, the Tigers 13 and the Eels 16. It was an absolutely wild game. 34 errors on the count across the game. There was people dropping the ball on their own 20, throwing passes out wide, interceptions, no track. There was just everything you could think of. It happened in this game. Adam Dewey obviously came back into the team, which was a big talking point, whether he should or shouldn't. Actually scored a try, which was a very good solo effort and a very dodgy drop goal kick, but it went over the all count. But it wasn't enough in the end. The Eels ended up winning 16-13. Did you watch this game live?
I didn't see it live, Dan. I've seen the highlights of, but I think I've seen it being called the worst NRL game that people have ever seen. With regard,
it was wild.
It's very unusual to see that many errors in a game in the NRL. But, and the low quality of game. I think it shows where both teams and clubs are at. In terms of the need some kind of reset. Particularly the West Tigers. I think there's always too much noise coming out of the club.
There is.
Which doesn't help.
But
they need a bit of reset. One thing they have got, Dan, is they've got some brilliant young players at the Tigers.
They have.
And you hope that in a year or two or maybe three, that them players come to the fore and they get back to what was a wonderful 2005. It seems like it is a lifetime ago. It's a generation ago. When they won the NRL with the Benji flick pass to Pat Richards and a couple of players that I played alongside in Daniel Fitzhenry, Ben Galea, Mark O'Neill at Hull KR that were brilliant for the Tigers as well. So we hope for better times for Jason Riles and the Eels. Job done.
Job done. It is certainly job done. The Tigers, I cannot believe the two halves of season that they've had is just chalk and cheese.
Absolutely.
But they're looking for next year now. But that wraps it up now for the NRL Week 22 results and analysis. Let's get straight into the Super League news. If you enjoyed this segment, the full 90-minute podcast with all 5 segments is linked below, where we discuss the latest Super League and NRL news and results, plus the bonus segment of Question Cookie each week. Don't forget to subscribe, click the bell icon to be notified of all future content uploaded by NRL Insight UK. Thank you for your continued support and see you on the next one.